Hi, lovely people. I have been on YouTube for 3 years now, so I felt like making a special anniversary video. This is gonna be a long one because it's gonna be including all the painting sequences I've ever filmed so far. And I'm gonna explain a little bit about the paintings that I'm making in this video as well. So there's gonna be a little bit of commentary, mostly music, because I can't just copy paste all the background music together. So it's gonna be a bit of a chill, lo-fi vibe probably, with lots of painting. Feel free to put it up in the background while you're working, or let me know in the comments what you do with it. But it's felt like something fun to do, just see all the progress over the last 3 years. It's been a really fun ride. I love this platform, and here's to another 3 years. Enjoy. Hello, my name is Roxy. I am a visual artist from the Netherlands, and I started posting YouTube videos showing my artist practice from, let me check, the 23rd of February on 2022. So this footage is an oil painting that I was finishing up actually, and I did not film the start or anything. It's just the finishing up with oil pastels. I had only just begun oil painting. I'm someone who just goes in. You'd think start small, but I guess I was just like, let's just go big. And I really enjoyed that, and I never stopped painting big. So that's also kind of what my work is about. I really like painting big self-portraits that take up space, but in this time I was actually still painting other people as well. And it was great practice for model drawing and references and getting likeness, but I guess at some point I felt way more comfortable painting things that did not look exactly like the model. This is also, again, a model. I had her actually visit the studio, and what I did at those times was I had models pose and made quick sketches. I made those of the previous paintings you saw as well. Quick life drawing sketches, and then from those life drawing sketches I made some photos that I edited. You can kind of see it on the side there. And then I made my paintings. So that's how I could kind of practice the gestures that made that model look like the actual model, but still have like the freedom of not having it look exactly alike. That first painting you saw was called Transcendence at the Window, which is absolutely a Panic at the Disco reference. I don't know why, but it came up and it seemed fitting. And the second one, I am honestly not sure if I still have the painting. I'm not sure if I painted over it. Could be, I could have it still. I am gonna find out. I think that one is just called Red Morning Robe or something. Very basic. I have to say I like the painting more now that I looked at it again, but I have that with almost all the footage. Let's get to the next one. You see me working on a sketch here. I always do these small thumbnail drawings of bigger paintings, and I already made the concept sketch, so that's kind of what I want to work with. But then I kind of want to see if a different composition kind of works, or if I want to change some things, or maybe if I make the gestures bigger. And this was a fun one because it was sort of a collaboration, but not really. I painted one of my old classmates. His name is Victor, and I studied fashion design, and we studied it together. And he continued in the direction of fashion design and made a collection, all these red pieces, very fabulous, very big, grand things. And he had a show, an exhibition show. And he asked me if I wanted to illustrate one of his looks. Again, he asked to illustrate, and I went big. And I wanted to make a painting because why not? I completely underestimated how long that would take, but it did work out. And that's what you see me do here. So I first set up a sketch, and this painting was called The World is Waiting, Love. And it's an 80 by 160 centimeters painting, painted in 2022. It's still a kind of an odd size, but I really like that odd size, honestly. It's very long. I made another one in acrylics, and I don't have it shown here because I wasn't filming my practice then. But it's just this human size, and maybe it's my human size because I'm only 165 centimeters, which is pretty small for a Dutch person. But I think it's because it's hanging on the wall. It's also going to be up a little bit, so it's very imposing. It's very grand, I guess, because of the thin frame as well. And this one is called The World is Waiting, Love. And that's what you see me working here. And I'm now going to shut up and show you the painting with some background music. Hello, I'm back. It has been so weird to see this old footage because you see yourself grow up in 3 years, and this is my old studio as well. I even have my long acrylic nails, which I had to abandon, unfortunately. I still miss them because we started renovating our own house, and they have no business being there when you are even looking at a hammer. So I had to abandon them, and I'm looking at them now. I'm feeling sad, but yeah. I completely forgot about this sketch. I think I still have it in a drawer somewhere. This is just a quick illustrative mixed media, let's get started, let's get the creative juices going sketch. I think I made it up. I don't think I had a reference, but I used to make these a lot more. I don't really do that anymore, and it was just fun to play with color and materials and textures and apparently dropping oil pastels on my paper. If I see this footage though, I have to say that I have a perfect studio right now. I am really liking my studio, but when I noticed the footage of the old studio, it did make me feel a little bit sad for losing that place. Not losing. I did it on purpose, and I'm still in the same building, and I chose the bigger room. But the filming was so nice. It was such great lighting, I think because of the tiny windows, and now I have like big windows and it's much lighter, but this was just such a cozy place. And as you can see, we are still in 2022. I made another sketch as well, which you see me drawing here. I think it's like a bath sketch, and I think this is like an image I still want to paint sometime. Even though I don't have a bath, so I would have to kind of pretend to be in a bath. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I saw it somewhere, I guess. But I just like the pose. I have a picture of it on my wall as well, not of this exact sketch, but of a painting that is kind of similar. And I just like it. Yeah, I just like it. You know that I haven't even talked about how much I appreciate that people like you watch my work over here. I filmed the intro, and I kind of liked the intro, but I wanted to make it quick. And now I realize I didn't even thank you for being here, because when I started making these videos, I think I got about like a few hundred views per video, which is completely fine, and it was more than I expected, honestly. But at some point you're just like, who am I talking to? Especially when no one comments what they thought about the video, and that is different now. I feel like there's much more of a community, which makes it much more fun to make videos. But I do think when I was editing and copy pasting this video together, I did have to think back on how it felt to make the videos. I really was making them just for me and just as a way to process what I was doing at the time. I started making them to remind myself what I did actually. Like this day, you saw me setting up a model drawing session because that wave of fabric that you see in the corner is my best friend Dida. And she was pregnant at the time with her first kid, and that's how you know time has passed, because her second one is already almost a year old now. And this is when I live drawn her with her big pregnant belly. I'm not sure exactly how far along she was at the time, but it was big. And yeah, it was really nice to do that for my friend and to have this moment be like set in a drawing. Like it's just a stillness in a drawing. And I really liked the most of the drawings as well that I made of her that time. And even though I realize you can't really see it here, but you'll have to kind of trust me on this. You'll see it in a bit. And she has red hair, so that's coming back in all the drawings. And yeah, it was not a nude live drawing session, by the way. Like sometimes I do nude drawings, but this was just sort of semi-nude and focused on the belly. Yes, I have to pick up live drawing again. I think I'm going to pick up live drawing again soon because I really enjoyed that. I did a lot of live drawing at that moment. It was very loose. And now that I see it, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of people in my studio as well, but at some point it just felt like very crowded and like I needed time alone with my paintings again. Especially because live drawing is pretty intense. It's fun and it's really productive as well. But if I do like 2 hours of live drawing, not live illustrating, that's something different. If I do 2 hours of live drawing, I am finished for the entire day, and maybe even for 2 days. So I do want to pick it up again, but maybe find like a healthy way to do it. Yeah. Not sure how you feel about live drawing, but I wonder if like more people have that exhausted feeling when they're done. But I did enjoy if someone was in the studio, like they would see the results right away, and that would take off the pressure of that moment where you show the work, and this way you kind of show everything at the same time. So yeah, I've been thinking of releasing it as like a thing to do. I did it for a little while, like people could book a live drawing session with me for 2 hours, and then I would draw them and they could pick a drawing, and then if they want an extra they would pay a little bit extra. But I never really promoted it that much, but I did it a few times. Maybe I should bring it back. But yeah, we'll see about that. And here you see the belly in full glory. All right, and now I am going to shut up again. I will see you in a bit. would you look at that? We are at a new body of work now. This is still one of my favorite paintings. It is very aggressive, I feel like, but it was just, I think it was a changing painting. I haven't shown it somewhere, I think, which is a shame, but I feel like it needs like a revamp sometime. I feel like maybe it was a bit ahead of its time for me and it needs some time to sit, but you'll see it in a bit. It's turned out into this really bright yellow painting, and it is called If I Didn't Mean You Well, Here's the Rest of Me. I think this was also the time where I started giving more poetic titles to paintings, and this is also again the time where I started making more self-portraits and being really accepting of what I wanted to make, what I wanted to create. This body of work is called Out Now, We'll Be Back for More, and it was very moving. It was a very moving time, very active, very much filled with change and restlessness, because this was when me and my partner moved in together, and we moved into a house that we bought together, which was amazing, and we thought we would be done with renovations in like 2 months or so, but turned out to be a little bit longer than that, and we pretty much removed everything from the house and built it up again. So not much time for painting during that time, and if we ever do it again, which we'll probably will do for a bigger house someday, maybe like 15-20 years down the line, I will do everything differently. But it did result in this painting series that feels very aggressive, very moving, very expressive, and I don't know, I think when I look back at this series, I can see the restlessness, and I could not see it at the time, but all the paintings were so filled with texture and color and everything. And that's exactly how I felt. I felt like everything had to get out, and it was too busy. And yeah, that's why I think this painting is still one of my favorites. The one I'll paint after, you'll see as well, is filled with everything as well. But I think this, I didn't show these paintings anywhere. I believe maybe only the one after this, but I feel like they need a comeback, and maybe just show it separately. This was also when I was noticing that my studio was getting a bit too small, because when you fill up all that white space of the canvases with everything, you kind of have to have space around it, and I did not really have the space around it. It was just, since it was a cozy studio, it's still pretty big. It was bigger than my first studio, and definitely bigger than working from home. But I couldn't really see what was on there. And I was noticing that, like, the limitations of the size of my studio, and definitely with the painting after this. But that's kind of when I started playing in my head as well, like maybe I need to move to a bigger studio. But that's you'll see that as well. Enjoy the rest of this painting, and I will be back. We are getting bigger. I think this was my biggest painting until that time. It was 125 to 145 centimeters. This was 2022 still, but I finished it in 2023. And I tried with making this video to compile all the painting sequences and paste them after each other. And I believe this was also the first video that did really well. And I was doubting if I should post it because it was 40 minutes long, which is really long. I think that's also when I discovered that I was just not someone for short form. And especially since it did so well, I was like, this is my sign. I need to put more energy into YouTube. So yeah, what you see me draw here is the underpainting. I always do these sketch-like underpaintings. And especially with this one, I try to get a lot of the sketchiness or let a lot of the sketchiness stay in the painting because it was a little bit rendered at the end, or a lot more rendered at the end. It went through a lot of stages, and now that I see that beginning, it was really fun to make, fun to work on this bright background with blues and purples and on my dreaded easel. I hate painting on easels. It's the movement, I think. And I know that at that time I also really did not enjoy the easel, but my wall was full. So I had to make do. And it kind of worked. This green is so lovely, by the way. I need to get it back into another painting. Yeah, editing this video has really made me appreciate the paintings as they were. Because at the time you're very critical, but if you see them all after each other in such a quick way, I know I'm rambling a bit, but if you see that, you really do get a different appreciations for them. And I really like that green. That green needs to come back. Anyway, this painting, it was again part of the same body of work as the last one, which is called Out Now, We'll Be Back for More. And this painting is called What Are Your Thoughts on Staying Here Forever? And I think this is also, when I decided on that title, was also when I discovered that this was a very restless time. So I incorporated it into the titles. And this was such a busy painting as well. And I struggled so much with the face. It's going to be completely different from what you see here. But it did give me a lot of layers to work from. It's a very layered painting. And in the end, I also framed it in this bright blue frame. And it's just a real, you can't walk past it and not see it, honestly. It's it needs a bright place, or maybe like a really dull place, and then it brightens up the room. That would also be fine with me. I still have it in my studio as well, so I hope it finds a new home, which is either bright or dull, whichever works for you. Okay, I will see you in a bit. who is this girl? She's suddenly blonde, and she's only blonde for like half of the video. I was looking at this painting that you saw on the wall very briefly, but I decided not to include it because I scrapped it. Did not like it, and I did not want to talk about it, so it's not there. What we do now, though, they are really cute. They're really tiny, tiny paintings, and the one you see now actually turned into a big one. If you are following me for a while, you've probably recognized which one it is. It's green girl with blue and red in the background, and the one you see on the right, on the left might make it in the future, because now that I look at it, it looks really nice and I like the composition, so maybe I'll bring that back too. I really liked making these tiny sketches at the time, tiny oil sketches. Usually they feel like a bit too much of a hassle because you have to get out the oils and clean up the oils as well. And most of the time I don't feel like it, but this felt nice, so maybe I have to do it again. I usually just get the oils out for the big stuff. And this one was fun too, by the way. This was like a lighting sketch, like how brightness works, but I never did anything with it. I did a lot of tiny oil sketches then. I always have that. When I make tiny sketches, I have this few days where I'm like, yes, this is the best thing ever. I have to do this more often, and then I never do it again for months or maybe half a year or a year. But now we get to the next one. This one was fun. This was again based on a self-portrait, but like a bit more realistic. I think I felt more realistic here. As you see, the hair is gone, by the way. Like I think I had my worst haircut ever here, because I'm just not going to put attention to the things that I did wrong with my hair here. This painting is called "Oh Empty Mind, I Want to Be Like Them," which will make more sense if you see the rest of the painting. And I feel like I'm wearing the things that I'm wearing in this painting. It kind of messes up your vision. So in the photo, I'm sitting at this checkered fabric, and then I'm wearing my pole shoes, which are reflective. And I think that's my favorite part of this painting, because it's just painted realistically in such a nice way. I was very proud of that part of the painting, as well as the sock. The sock looks great as well. And I think it was just, again, a sort of stepping stone painting into more of a collage-like feeling, because I was doing more collage-y paintings. And in this one, I experimented with reflective spray paints, but also with reflections and with more matte finishes versus reflectives. And later in the process, you also see me using sort of cutouts of shapes. I've also, for the first time, I think, used masking tape with spray paint, or with when you mask off something and then paint it, you get it off the painting, you get this really sharp line, which I really like sometimes. And I think this was the first painting that I actually did that with, because all the other ones were very painterly, and I enjoyed doing that experiment with this one. So yeah. Oh, empty mind, I want to be like them. We are, by the way, 1 year later. We are in 2023 right now, and still in the old studio. Still have some pieces to make, and it's filling up. This painting is 90 by 145 centimeters, which is a size that I've used a lot. I think it's a nice, very classic size. Dimensions are also very classic. And yeah. So this is a smaller self-portrait you're gonna see. I think it's the first one in a series that I continued on in 2024. And I was at a point where I had made some smaller oil paintings I wasn't happy with. And I discovered that I really liked painting over them. So I kind of sand off the texture that I made with the paint, because I don't want all of the texture to be seeping through that next painting. And then I just go over them. And it is kind of confusing at the start because you're working with a completely different composition than what you are looking for. But it's nice to work with the coincidences and the textures that are there and the things that you cannot change. And that's where this self-portrait came into existence. This work is titled I Forgot to Dream, and it is 40 by 60 centimeters. We're still in 2023. And this was at a time still where a lot of stuff was moving, and I was really, I don't think I was at a great time. I think I was pretty overworked and very much looking for what I wanted. Did I want to continue this artist existence, or was it too hard? I believe I even talked to people about doing something else, like looking for a regular job, which I'm happy I still have not done, even though it's still hard. But it just fits me. I don't think I can ever do anything else again. It's just something that I cannot imagine doing anything else. honestly. And especially looking at this, I just, the way that I work is that I feel and then I transport those feelings into my paintings, but it takes some time. I don't know what I'm feeling at that time, but then once I start working on these visuals, it just starts to make sense and I feel quieter, if that makes sense. I think a lot of artists work that way as well, but they're always very emotional, and that's why I called this one I Forgot to Dream, because I forgot to dream and I did not know what I wanted anymore. I think I've always had like these clear goals in life. I wanted to become a fashion designer, so I went and applied to art school, and then I got rejected and then I applied again and I did get in, and then I had 4 years to work towards something, and I wanted to become a full-time artist, and I became a full-time artist, and then what's next? That's kind of what happened. I didn't really know what I wanted to do anymore. And I think I realized now that it doesn't have to be like an end goal. It's just to be content, and content with what you're doing at that time. And yeah, these smaller self-portraits were nice, short exercises and paintings to get those feelings out. And I think they're really nice as a series as well. You'll see more of them later in the video. And I really liked what I did with the light here, by the way, with the light from underneath. I have to bring that back somewhere as well. It's kind of a cool effect. I also like the colors in this one. And again, the oil pastels here. Working on wet oil, which doesn't really work, but it does sort of work. And the sign to end it. Yeah, I forgot to dream. So this is a fun one. This was actually a commission and not a painting that I made of my own thinking. Well, I did make up the painting, but I was paid to make the painting. And this was for a collaboration between the singer Wokes and Salyu. You just saw it on the paper there. Oh, the black nails. I love the black nails. And it was for a collaborative project that they made with Salyu being in Japan and Wokes at the time being in LA in the United States. And I painted their album cover. And I've worked with Wokes before on smaller projects, on merch and smaller drawings. But this was a big one. This was a big album cover. And actually we worked together later as well for her single covers. But this was the first album cover. And I am so happy with how this turned out. I made an entire video about this weird perspective. Wow. I made an entire video about this process, so you can check it out. And also the music of this album is the soundtrack of that video. It was actually not watched that much, I have to say, but I do really love the end result of this. And what we decided on was having Salyu and Wokes' faces merged together. And I applied even more collage-like effects to this painting than I usually do, which I really loved. And I warped and stretched the faces first by using Photoshop, and then my own painterly style. Like I even exaggerated it even more. And we chose these kind of muted colors. I'm saying that while I know there's like bright red and bright green in the picture, but we chose kind of muted skin colors, but then make it weird. Like everything I always show Wokes, it's like, okay, but make it weird. So I think I really like the collaborations that we've done, because so far it's always been, I just have complete freedom to do whatever I want as long as I make it weird. And this one was definitely weird, and it's still, I think it's one of my favorite commissions ever. And it just turned out into this really cool painting. And as I said before, we've worked on the single covers for her new album, not a collaboration, but her own album. All my best friends are ghosts. And you can listen to it on Spotify. And if you look at the separate singles, then you see the whole collaboration project form itself, and see what we've worked on for literally more than a year, which is pretty insane. So I am excited to see what's more coming from that. And that was a really fun thing to do as well. And this was sort of the starting point for that. are back with another small self-portrait, 2 actually at the same time. I was working on them side by side. The one on the left is called Today I Feel Good, and the one on the right is called I Came to See Growth. And you'll see, I think, if I finish the one on the right, why? Because I felt like this was this really serious face, like a boss wanting to see results. And it's me. So I guess I was wanting to see results. Again, that's like the thing that comes out when you paint. It's kind of the subconscious coming up. And I really like these two. I really like this pair. The one on the left is more green with red, actually. And it was, I don't know, I think it's one of the few paintings, and I really did that on purpose. One of the few paintings that I made that looks right at you. And it's something that I have noticed when I look at all my paintings next to each other, that I never do. And I really have to do that on purpose, or I won't have a painting look at you. And it is just subconscious. So for this one, I wanted to do be really purposeful with, okay, the look is going to go right at you. And this one was exhibited in Amsterdam, and through that exhibition, it was sold, actually. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I'm not sure where I wanted to go with that story, but yeah, it was sold, and that's great. And it's found a new home, and it's amazing. The other one is called I Came to See Growth, and it's more orangey. And I feel like because I worked on them like next to each other, they really complement each other really, really nicely. So I used the green in both of them, but then on the one on the right, it's just like an accent. And I noticed the red orange hues that I liked, but then I wanted more orange in the one on the right. So I really like the colorways there, and it's very pasty, the paint. It's very thick, very textured, and that's what I like in both of these. So I will let you enjoy the painting process for a bit now, and I'll see you in a bit. So this painting was scrapped, but I still liked the painting process. So you're gonna see the process, but I'm not telling anything about it. It's gonna be this mysterious yellow painting. So this painting was also scrapped. We're getting into a scrapping experimental phase, I think. I started off strong, I think. It was this nice masked effect, I guess, but I think it was also the last painting that I made in this studio. And it turned out to be too illustrative, too not me, and I struggled with it, and I ended up at this sort of point where it was okay. But then I looked at it again and I was like, no, this is not me. This is just something that I had to get out, and that's fine, but I'm not gonna promote this or post this or show this in any way. But I did film the process, so it is going to be included in this video. And I still hope you like the process. Sometimes someone else looks at your work differently than you do, so I'm fine with that. And I'm also fine with sharing the works in progress, so because not everything is a hit. I try to make most paintings work, but I obviously don't always hit. And this is just one of them. So I liked the small sketches more, though. The small sketches were cute, but the big painting was not me. No. Oh, that's a big change. I moved to a way bigger studio and left my cozy tiny studio for concrete flooring and no glue on the floor with dirty cream paint on top of it and light, and everything was big and everything was fresh. And you see how small my painting looks here. It looked really big in the previous studio, but now it looks really small. The first thing I did here was prepare some new canvases, and I always used pre-gessoed roll linen, but this is somehow I decided it was smart to buy non-prepared linen and did it myself for the first time. Took forever, did it the wrong way probably. I mean, it works, but it's not perfect. And at a later stage I learned why. So now I use sort of a glue before I gesso it, and it works way better. And the painting on the left actually was also scrapped. It was just like something that had to get out of my head, I guess. But this one turned out to be one of my favorites. And you have probably seen it. I've featured it in a lot of videos because this took forever, especially because it's pretty large and a lot of stuff happened in between. So I put it aside and then grabbed it again. And I think it took like a few months to finish this work. It has found a new home since then, and the title of the work is Daydream for a Couple of Hours, which is, yes, the song. I sometimes use like song titles or changed song titles as titles, and not always, but I've done it a few times. I don't really remember other ones now that I think of it. But this one, just the song came on and it just fit the work perfectly. It's also a new body of work that I started here. And I feel like this is the body of work that I'm still working on. And it's just, I don't know, it's a big change from the last one. Because the last one was very busy, very filled, very texture filled, very color filled, very busy. And now that I moved to that new studio, I noticed that my work was different. It was wanting to become bigger. It wanted to expand. It wanted to become softer as well. I wanted to blur lines more, use more gradients, and I can really see that I am just becoming better. I'm just becoming more skilled. I got some new brushes as well. The colors are different, and yeah, I feel like I am taking myself more seriously here. Maybe even a bit too serious. Not with this work yet, but maybe with the works after. I took myself a bit too serious, but I am wanting to incorporate more playfulness again. But yeah, this was really one of the changing works again. I know I say that, it seems like I say that a lot, but I'm looking at 3 years of footage here, and that's a lot of paintings. So, maybe not even that much paintings, but it seems like no time has passed. But actually, a lot of things happened and a lot of time has passed. You just have to... Yeah, you just compile it into this 3-hour compilation, and then it seems like every other painting is like the best work yet, the biggest work yet. Yeah, Daydream for a Couple of Hours. It's 180 by 120 centimeters, so quite large. And this was started in 2023, but I only finished it in 2024. So again, you'll see by the hairstyles when it is 2024 and how long I actually worked on it. So the body of work that that previous painting and this next one was included into was called Soft Words I Tell Myself. And this whole collection of paintings and the whole feeling of that time was that I wanted to be softer to myself. Like I can be pretty harsh on myself, and the thing that I realized during making these paintings was that because I spent so much time with my own self-portraits, I show myself softness actually through painting. Even though I don't do it on a daily basis, maybe, I do it via the paintings and the soft strokes and the way that you kind of see yourself from a distance instead of seeing yourself in fleeting moments. And that's why I liked spending a lot of time with them as well. And that sounds weird, but I put paintings aside for a while, then came back to them, and that happened with almost all paintings no, not almost. It happened with all of the paintings in this body of work. And it made me just look differently. The painting that you see me making here is called Even When No One Is Looking. And I think I made up this, I made up this title. I thought of this title when I didn't really see the significance of the title yet, but I was really in the process of finding out why I was making things and why I was painting. I was doing some grant applications as well, which makes you rethink and rewrite your artist statement and your ideas, and you have to really know them, which is something that I honestly really dislike, but I do understand it, that is important. So it made me overthink everything. And I asked people as well what they felt when they saw my work, and I also did that during my shows, because I had these paintings in a few shows. And a lot of people actually answered that they felt seen. And with that title, Even When No One Is Looking, it makes so much sense. And I think it's something that I really like it's something that I want my paintings to portray, but that people said that without me guiding them in that direction, that really made sense. And it put a lot of things in perspective, and it made a lot of things really clear, like, oh, I'm on the right path with what I'm doing right now, even though I'm not doing it very consciously. And that's a theme that I'm still working on, honestly. I think it's going to continue in my work. I think it's always been in my work. I think now with these last paintings, it's finally coming out in a way that feels honest and not hidden. I think in the start of this video, you saw a lot of paintings of other people as well, and that I really did those paintings because other people advised me to, I have to say. And I mean, they did help me, and I think they turned out to be really good, but they weren't really what I wanted to do. And I feel this body of work, you're gonna probably say that about every last thing that you made, but that really feels honest. That feels like what I want to do, and what I'm good at, and what I want to say. And I think it's gonna be a theme that's gonna continue and widen, and I'll see for how long that's gonna be, like for how long I'm gonna continue in that theme and that phase, but I think it's gonna be a while. I have some more self-portraits to paint. We are deep in 2024 now, and I think this was the last big painting that I finished. And no, I know it is because I haven't finished any paintings, any big paintings in 2025. So this was really the last one. And this canvas was actually gifted to me from my old studio mate. She moved back to a home studio and she had this big canvas that she used for another painting. It was a really nice quality as well, really thick. And she's had kept it with her for 3 years, didn't use it. And when she moved out, she was like, "Do you want this canvas? Because I will not move it home." And I said, "Well, sure, why not? It's the biggest one I've worked on." And that's why you see me painting over the old painting at the start. And this big one was actually made quite fast, I have to say. Like the sketch was there right away, and then I had these hyper-focused moments of painting the layers, since it's one big body, and that one big body had like a lot of similar colors, and I wanted them to blend into each other. And if I don't do that in like one session or 2 sessions right after each other, then it's gonna have a different effect. So it was a very physical painting, very labor intensive, honestly. I remember being really tired after. Oh, to see that sad plant in the windowsill, by the way. I'm really bad at taking care of plants in my studio. I love taking care of plants at home and in my garden, but the studio, they just do not survive. But anyway, it was very physical. And I remember being really tired after the painting sessions because you have to make such big strokes, and I was using a big brush like this. But it felt also very, very natural. Like I used some different techniques here. I used masking tape again for a collage-like effect, and it just all felt very, very easy going. And this was my biggest painting yet. Yeah, I am working on a bigger one right now though. Because you always have to get a step ahead, I guess. No, that's not true. But I am working on a bigger one because this one made me realize how much I liked working large and how much I liked using my studio for big work, because I have a big studio, so you have to make big work. This painting was sort of the showstopper at my latest exhibition end of last year. I dreamt of expanding, and it has the same name. So I named the exhibition after this painting. It's the first painting you saw when you came in and also when you walked past. And it just felt fitting. I Dreamt of Expanding was all about not feeling small again. And it's the next phase sort of in the soft words I tell myself as I spend time with my self-portraits and I make them so big that I cannot ignore myself. And it's kind of the next step in the soft words series. And this painting was just, yeah, it just all made sense with this one. In between a larger work, I often work on paper, and since portraits are kind of my way to relax, because it's something that I've drawn so many times and it's just something that does not bore me, I kind of make these imaginative portraits on paper, and I have been starting to call them my imaginary friends, since they're from memory. I have no memory of them, but they come from my imagination. And this portrait is called Unseen. I made a few, but I don't think I've filmed any other of them. And this, you can see them in the back here in the wall. It's a few. And it's just a way to kind of experiment with color and with texture on a small scale. It's a nice, relaxing exercise, I guess. And some turn out good, some turn out a little bit less. But in general, when I select the good ones, I chose a few to hang next to each other and frame in these really colorful frames, and then they look, as a series, they look really nice together, I think, and they really tell a story. So this one actually found a new home, as well as a few other ones, but I do have some available in my shop still. And yeah, this is just me painting my imaginary friend, Unseen. So far I've mostly shown you paintings, and this is a more illustrative work. So I think this one is real time, there's no cuts in it. But if you've followed me for a while, then you know that I do live illustrations as like a commercial side of my work. I get hired by a company. Most often it's luxury hotels or fashion or anything else that works with PR and want to gift something to their clients, to their press people. I'm so good at explaining this. Anyway, they hire me as an artist to make live portraits or live fashion illustrations, because that's where I come from. That's what I originally started doing at their events. And it's a really fast drawing pace. I guess you could compare it to people drawing caricatures on the street, just that this is fashion illustration and not caricature. I guess maybe you could say it's sort of caricature, but it's different. And that's what you see me doing here. So I practice quite some time. I don't do it super often. Kind of depends on the season. Like there's season in live illustration, there's seasons in events as well. And I have had quite some different styles of live illustrations over the years. So I've been developing something that it's easy to fall into the trap of making the same drawing over and over and over again, because you have no time. It's like 5 minutes per person, and you really do have only 5 minutes per person. But if I make the same drawing over and over and over again, I don't like it. And so I've been, over the years, developing like a style that I can kind of adjust artistically so that it still stays interesting for me as well. And so that I actually enjoy the drawing and the painting. Otherwise, it just really becomes this task of repetition, and don't really like that. So you can always fall back into the repetition if you notice that you're too busy, for example, or if you notice you don't really have your drawing day. And most people will not notice. It's just me that notices. But I like having an actual nice drawing to give away. And this was a practice drawing. This was in certain branding colors. This was actually, I think this one was just loose, or a practice drawing for an event that I did for a fundraiser. But I did end up doing another one in these same branding colors. So that's just something. This is just a drawing that they saw, and they were like, "Oh, we like that." And that's how personal projects lead to paid jobs. So, yeah. We're going back in time a little bit. This is one painting of a series of 8, 2 of which you've already seen, in the same size that I made for a group exhibition. I had the idea to make new work for that exhibit, and I made 8 self-portraits of the same size to just put next to each other, and they were all kind of fragments of, I guess, emotions. Different parts of yourself. And because I made all these, I always work from references that I make, and because I worked from all these different references, you could almost not see that they were the same person. And it was fun to ask people what they thought about it, and tell them after they told me their own thoughts, like, yes, this is all the same person, this is all me. And they were like, oh, I see it in this one, that's you, right? And then I would be like, yeah, but they're all me. But you don't see it. That was a fun conversation to have. This first one is called Orange Kitchen Lighting, and it's just a really warm painting. And again, this is one of the very few paintings where I very consciously made myself look at the viewer, look at the room instead of down or whatever. Yeah, sometimes I just like that. It's just a very classic portrait, but not classic in any way. And you'll see in the rest of the portraits as well that they're all just different. We are now getting to the final works of this video. We are almost 3 hours in. It's 4 works actually, and these are just the sketches that I made. I also included them in my last exhibition because I felt that my paintings were all very dense, very full, like I don't leave any space on the canvas to breathe. And if you put all of that together in one space, it just becomes very full, very heavy. So I wanted some lighter things in there, and I did that by adding some works on paper and adding more white, adding more light, and letting the paintings breathe. And these were all very... These were a bit more intuitive than the paintings. The oil paintings are pretty thought out. I have a photo sketch, then I make a base layer, and then I go to the next layer, and the next layer, and the next layer, and at some point it's finished. And with these works, I wanted them to feel more like life drawings, but just one step above a life drawing. Like a life drawing I make pretty quickly, like I don't know, they can be 3, 5, 10, 15 minutes, and with these I did want to make them feel like proper paintings, so with proper layering, and I did take some time over a few days to really look at them and see what they needed. So they were kind of more life drawing paintings. And they gave the exhibition space to breathe as well. And I really liked that experiment. I also painted on this nice paper, like just high quality paper. Most of the time when I work on paper, it's also high quality, but it's just normal, regular quality paper. But this was just so luxurious. It felt really luxurious, and that was really nice to work on. And at the end of this footage, you'll see an overview, and that's really the last paintings that I have to show you. Then this almost 3-hour video is done, and I think I'm gonna do an outro, and I'm leaving it here and let you enjoy the paintings. Thank you for still being here. Thank you for watching this anniversary edition. I wanted to make this, and I got a suggestion to talk a bit more about the paintings. And at first I thought like, oh, I'm just gonna cut all the painting sequences after each other. But that was actually a really great suggestion. So thank you for that. And it made me also be a bit more introspective because I looked at all the footage instead of just copy pasting it. It's weird when it's such a weird thing to do, making studio vlogs, because you're constantly looking at yourself, and especially with making this, as I said in the beginning, you see yourself grow up, but you also see your body change, you see your face change, you see your hair change. And that is so weird of yourself to see. Like, I made these videos to remember what I did. And if you see like 3 years of footage, you can see really what you did. I've obviously also seen the parts that I cut out, and it's a lot. So thank you for being here for, well, maybe you just discovered me, and I hope you subscribe and follow my journey. But if you've been here for the 3 years, then thank you for also always watching, because really it is less fun without people watching. And I will continue making these visual diaries, and you'll see me in the next video. I didn't include the last big painting that I made because it's not finished yet, and I want some time with it. I need some time with it, so I'm going to work on that. I also want to mention specifically that I wanted to thank my patrons, because they always support my work. And if you want to support me making these videos, then it would be greatly appreciated, because yeah, it really does make a huge difference. And there's lessons on there, and you can learn with me, and I also share more of my process in photos and sometimes extra videos. So there are some extra videos on there which are unedited, not time-lapsed videos, but like really slow painting background videos if you want to see more of the techniques. Anyway, I will see you in the next one, and thank you for watching, and have a nice day.